This is Baxter Van West from AirVenture 2017. I'm standing in front of a 57-year-old B-52H. There have been several attempts to replace this aircraft. None of them have been able to do what this airplane is capable of. Here is Major Keith Vandegrift to give us a tour and tell us more about what the B-52 can actually do.
So the first thing everybody generally looks at is obviously the eight throttles for the 8 different engines. Generally people fly in the bottom, but you can kind of fine tune the engines. Some people use 4 and 5 to kind of make small throttle adjustments there. The airplane doesn't have ailerons, it has air brakes. The air brakes are set right here. When you move the yoke, you actually raise the air brake on one side. When we fly around in the pattern, or do a landing, we use air brakes in position 4, and that kind of gives us the most control authority because they're about halfway up. And so when you make a left-hand input, this one goes down and that right air brake goes up, or vice versa. I think I said that backwards. So it gives you a little bit more control in the pattern for a given amount of yoke deflection versus, all the way down. The next thing people kind of gravitate to is the crosswind crab system. So obviously our tip gear is 148 feet apart. We have a crosswind crab selection here, so we figure out what our crosswind component is. You say, hey, that's 70 degrees or 60 degrees off at 10 knots. It looks like it's 4 degrees of crosswind crab. So we pull up the crosswind crab knob, turn it left or right depending on the wind direction, and it's set right here in this. So what's happening is the front and the aft gear are rotating. So what we're trying to do is set the crab of the airplane so that we're flying straight down the runway and the wheels are aligned with the runway when we touch down. It's almost like landing a glider, if you've ever done that before. So you basically fly it down onto the runway, rotate the airplane out, and the goal is to land with the aft trucks touching down first and the front trucks about a half wheel diameter above the aft truck. And it's gonna be a little bit of a, it's not greasing it on like you do on a tricycle landing gear. It's a firmer touchdown, but what you wanna avoid is if you land too fast, because of the angle incidence of the wing, you'll land front truck first. And that can cause a lot of bouncing and PIO and stuff like that. So we kind of accept a little bit firmer touchdown and land on that way. Obviously we got the 8 engine instruments, 1 for each engine. Obviously, we got engine pressure ratio, RPM, EGT, and fuel flow. We also have a fuel totalizer, our landing gear indicator. This is a fuel totalizer right here, so that takes in everything we have from each individual quantity indicator, which is out here. No automatic fuel at all. We do everything on our own. It's based on a fuel sequence that Boeing has calculated for us. And generally the idea is to keep the airplane within the center of gravity limits, while at the same time keeping as much fuel in the wing as we can. And what that does is give strength in the wing, reduce wing flutter and stuff like that. We actually have a wing flutter warning system, and we have these green bands, so the idea is to keep fuel into the green bands as much as we can. If you add up all the fuel quantity in here, it'll hold about 310,000 pounds of gas. We usually flight plan about 400 knots true, but the airplane will go to 0.84, and our max range cruise at your optimum altitude is like 765 Mach, and you can get 99% of your max range at 78 Mach. So I think the older buffs were somewhere around 0.92 is a max Mach, so it would go pretty quick. Anti-skid system. Brakes is probably one of the things I would want to get replaced on the airplane if I had the choice. The way it was designed, if you read the Dash 1, was lightweight and for one full-time use. So we have a drag chute. That's one of those things, I had to tell people, like, if drag chutes were the way to go, then every airliner would have a drag chute. No airliner has a drag chute, so it's obviously, we can't count on the drag chute either. It's just an aid to reduce brake wear.
Do you use it?
We use it on pretty much every full stop landing, unless it's a specific scenario. So we used it when we landed here, just because it's a shorter runway and I'm gonna take all the help I can get stopping the airplane. Yeah. So this airplane is redundant in the extreme. We have 6 engine-driven hydraulic pumps. We have 4 electric pumps, if those happen to go out. We have 2 rudder elevator electric pumps, so those have aux pumps that are also powered by the main engine-driven pumps. We have 4 generators, and 1 generator is generally enough to power everything that we really need. We have an emergency gear extension and retraction system, so if for some reason we need to emergency retract the gear, we can do that. and that would be for like a nuclear scenario when, you know, range is very important. So this downstairs, we call it the offense system, or where the offense crew members sit. Got a navigator in the right seat, and the radar navigator is a compartment commander down here, and he sits in the left seat. So they have the same 2 green screens that we have upstairs, and they can put data in both of them. The DTCs, so this is how we mission plan. We'll cut our mission to the DTC and load it into the system here. They put them in, they're basically giant cartridges like this. You know, stuff that could be put on a little SD card now. But that was top of the line in the 80s when that came out. So we do a lot of offset aim point bombing. The radar kind of runs the show down here as far as getting that together. A lot of what we're doing, especially downrange right now, the radar is doing a lot of the working the pod and weapon system, and the navigator's kind of keeping us in the area and making sure we don't fly where we're not supposed to, while at the same time assisting the radar navigators. So pretty much all the weapon stuff goes through down here. The nav actually has a altimeter and true airspeed indicator, outside air temperature as well. So when they have to do an IRC as well, instrument refresher course and all that. So there's a lot of CRM that goes into it. They watch our altitude, keep track of our airspeed so we can maintain timing to wherever we're going. We get them to where we need to go, and they do the hard work down here. So yeah, if you're sitting in the seat here, you know, you want to get strapped in first, and there's a pin that goes in between your seat. It latches up, and if you're going to eject, you're going to pull out here, put your legs back. It actually has like a stirrup that comes out. It wraps around your leg, and you know, you want to sit back and make sure your keyboard is in, and then you'll go straight down underneath. It's 250 feet above the ground is the min altitude for a downward ejection, assuming you're straight and level. There's 6 ejection seats, but we can actually get 10 people on the airplane. There is a procedure where we could actually get all 10 people off the airplane. And that usually involves the navigator going first, and then we get all the extra crew members off. So we'll have a guy in the instructor pilot seat, there's an instructor navigator seat, there's a defense instructor seat, and then we call this guy bunk or 10th man. And then they would all go out the hole that the navigator made. And you just clip on it's like jumping out of a C-130 or something, you know, clip on, and as you go out, you just fall out the bottom of the airplane, and then we'd get everybody else off. And the aircraft commander is always the last one to go. So that's a controlled scenario. It's kind of funny, like this airplane is as far away from the Wright Flyer, you know, in Vietnam. It'd be like flying the Wright Flyer in Vietnam. That's how old we are from this airplane right now when it was first built. So that we have a bunch of squadrons. There's actually, I think, 4 at Barksdale, the 20th Bomb Squadron, the 96th Bomb Squadron, the 11th, and the 93rd were all founded in 1917. So this is the 100th anniversary. It's also the 70th anniversary of the Air Force and 75th anniversary of 8th Air Force. So it's a big bomber air show this week. We're going to have B-52 here. We're going to have both flying B-29s and I think a couple B-17s and B-25s out here. So there's a lot of bomber history here at the Oshkosh, and we're really trying to play that up. You want to, you know, fighters are the cool thing to do, but when you want to get stuff done, you send a bomber over there to change people's minds.
Fun fact, there's 2,000 pounds of concrete sitting in the tail as bows for where the tail gunner used to be. This airplane will be in Boeing Plaza all week, and you should come see it.